Good evening, Shortcuts. Stephen here, giving you a preview of the jazz, blues, funk, and soul list for Shortcut Records, March 22nd. So, I think I gave you a heads up in last week's email and certainly on the list that there might be a bit of a theme to tonight's jazz and blues list. So I got my Tom Waits t-shirt on, and I have 4 Tom Waits records. So to give you an idea of how important Tom Waits is to me, the lyrics of one of his songs on Mule Variations, which is the first Tom Waits album I ever heard, was a reading at my wedding. It must be about 10 years ago now. My good friend Ivan and I had a long-standing commitment that the next time that Tom Waits would play live anywhere on the planet, we would go. My son Finbar so it must be nearly 11 years because his birthday is in April. My son Finbar was in, I don't know, Melissa was 7 months pregnant, maybe 7.5. And Ivan and I and a couple of other folks from all around the world converged on San Francisco to see Tom Waits play at Neil Young's concert to raise money for the school where his son went to. His son, I think, has spina bifida. And so flew to California. That's the last time in the world where Tom Waits has played a live concert. And it was extraordinary. Genuinely a bucket list item. And it was a bill that had Queens of the Stone Age, My Morning Jacket. I remember Lou Reed died just before, and a whole bunch of Lou Reed tribute stuff was happening on stage. Elvis Costello, Diana Krall, Hart, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young reformed as the last time they ever played before David Crosby passed away a few months ago. So it's a pretty special concert. Lots of memories. And here we have 4 Japanese first pressings from Tom Waits' Asylum Records era. So we have One from the Heart, the soundtrack he did with Crystal Gayle for the Francis Ford Coppola movie in 1980. You wouldn't think that this would be a combination that would work. There's Natasha Kinski on the back, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, which is a movie I actually love. She's part of the cast. There's Tom Waits' debut album, Closing Time. One of my favorite things about this sleeve is if you look really closely there, I don't know if this will come through in the camera, but it's a really faded clock. And the time on the clock is just about 20 past 4 in the morning. I like to think it's the morning, which is Tom Waits' definition of closing time. What a record this is. My favourite being I Hope That I Don't Fall in Love With You, which is just an incredible song about sitting at a bar, seeing a woman, the seat beside her is free, you try and work up the courage, you go to the bathroom, you come back, and she's gone. And you realise you've just fallen in love with her. Look at this. Small Change. Tom Waits, opening track being the iconic Tom Traubert's Blues. In parentheses, 4 Sheets to the Wind in Copenhagen. I had a copy of this maybe about a month ago, maybe a little bit longer, that Ivan, a very dear club member, picked up, and he has raved about it to me. And then this. Now, this is, I think this must be his first gatefold. This is Blue Valentine, the Japanese first press. Beautiful. Amazing. Look at that back sleeve. Look at that. Blue Valentine's one of my favorites of Tom Waits. You know, it's kind of, it's quite almost vaudeville, really vaudeville. But you know, A Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis is really something. The lyrics on that one are pretty special. But I do utterly adore Romeo is Bleeding and Kentucky Avenue. Legendary performer, amazing pressings of those albums. I'm lucky to have them already, and I adore them very much. In this list, I have some of my personal kind of iconic, almost cornerstone artists for me. And some of them might be surprising. There's a few coming up here. Some that you'll know, you'll go, oh yeah, I get it. But maybe you wouldn't get this. But I have a huge Nancy Sinatra collection. And this is mostly because I think the Japanese love Nancy Sinatra as much as I do. That coquettish voice. She's never a great singer. Now, there's someone coming up who's a truly great singer. But that wasn't the appeal of Nancy Sinatra. I much prefer Nancy to Frank, by the way. This is a double LP. Look at that for a gatefold. Isn't that amazing? And inside is in kind of like a magazine format of the lyrics, all their songs, or certainly a Japanese translator's idea of the lyrics. It's pretty funny to read along some of them. But this has everything. These boots are made for walking. This little bird, let it be me. Anyway, I love Nancy Sinatra, and if you don't have any, this double LP, you can't go wrong. It's pretty wonderful. Now, I there's some debate, but let's say this is approximately Johnny Cash's 40th studio album. What goes without question, though, is this is one of his, let's say, most, what's the right word? Idiosyncratic. I'll put it like that. This is an odd choice for Johnny Cash. But I think this is why it's so desirable and rare. It's only ever been sold once in Discogs that I can find. It's this. Johnny Cash, America, a 200-year-old salute in story and song. There's Johnny Cash's, let's say, very white history of America. And there's the track listing, which includes a highlight song from his wife, June Carter, The Road to Kentucky. All the way through this record are buried some really phenomenal Johnny Cash songs, some of them being Johnny Cash originals. But in between is this concept story of the history of America. So for all of you USophiles out there, this is quite something. And look at that gatefold. Oh, and look at his face. Anyway, it's a fascinating one. Now, I said Nancy Sinatra may not have the greatest set of pipes, but I love her to bits. This artist is just as great, but what a singer. And this is called The Golden Collection of Dusty Springfield. All of it in Japanese on the back, but you don't have to say you love me, yesterday when I was young, the windfields of your mind, the look of love, if you go away, son of a preacher man, you don't own me, in the land of make-believe. All the classics are there. And her smile just there is pretty awesome. This compilation, I think, from what I can tell, is pretty. I think it's 1972. It's in fantastic condition. Highly, I love Dusty Springfield. Now we got a couple of jazz records, some really, really cool jazz records. Those of you who are Shortcuts fans of renown will know I love McCoy Tyner. Just an extraordinary musician and a pretty beautiful man. I mean, he made incredible friendships and was a member of many iconic artists' bands where they produced some of their best work. But this is his album, Sahara. This is Japanese first press. Alphonse Mouzon on drums, who's, I think, pretty much star of the show alongside McCoy Tyner himself. Everything here written by McCoy Tyner. If you don't own it, it's a unique listen, and it's not an easy listen. Don't get me wrong, but in the right circumstance, with the right company, in the right frame of mind, it's pretty fabulous. Now this is the first time this record has ever appeared on a Shortcuts list. It's a stereo pressing of Bluesnik, Jackie McLean. Now, Jackie McLean, typically an alto sax player, but in his band, he has Freddie Hubbard on trumpet and probably most importantly, Kenny Drew on piano. And Kenny Drew on piano on this record absolutely freaking goes for it. You could almost argue Kenny Drew should be the name at the top of the session. But that couldn't be the case because Jackie McLean set out to make a blues record. Now, as you listen to this, a little bit different to last week's John Coltrane blues session, where you can really hear the 12-bar influence and you can hear him figuring out some of these blues signatures and then twisting them. Here, there are some of the songs where if it is the blues, it's buried deeply within a very complex and interesting oral experience. Really, really interesting record. If somebody does pick this up, I'd like to know what you think of it, because it really tickled me. And so, yeah, an interesting one. Now, last week, I had Eaten by Everything But the Girl. First time appeared on the list, and 10 people, at least 10, maybe more, said, "Could I have that record, please?" And as is the way, first come, first serve on the Wednesday evening. Quite a few people missed out. So I thought I'd put up another Everything But the Girl. This is Love Not Money. If memory serves me right, I think this is their second album. When you listen to this album, you don't hear new wave mixed with Sade sound. You hear the Smiths, at least to me. It's not quite, but you could argue it's a jangle pop album, albeit typically kind of cynical, more downbeat kind of Smiths feel. If you're going to have a picture of two boys, pissing outside what looks like a derelict building, and that does give you it's not the Beach Boys, but it has its charms. as does this next artist, a very popular artist on Shortcuts. Peter Tosh, Mystic Man, 1979. His fourth record. I'm a big fan. The standout record, the standout song is the opening track on side 2, Buckingham Palace, and I can't do the Jamaican accent, but it is 9 minutes of unadulterated genius. When a lot of people think about blues guitar, when I'm thinking here about electric guitar, this blues player is right at the top of the list. This is Albert Collins, Frostbite, 1980. The guitar is the star of the show the whole way through that, and those Japanese first presses of Albert Collins really hit the spot. Very popular for good reason. Now, just a few records to go. We'll continue on the blues theme. We've got some Sonny Boy Williamson from the 50s. Now, what I like about the Sonny Boy Williamson story, he died in 65, so he wasn't long with us, but he left his mark, particularly when he was it 65 he died? I'm doubting myself now, but he did tour Europe in the early 60s and into the mid 60s, and I think he would have very much come on the radar of one Mr. Jimmy Page, because there's a lot of Sonny Boy Williamson in Led Zeppelin, and when you listen to this record, you'll hear it pretty obviously. Now, another one of my heroes, James Brown. Everyone's doing the hustle and dead on the double bump. Maceo Parker is wonderful on that record. It's not top tier. James Brown is mid to top. It's got a lot of it's a pep in your step record, grooving your hump, all that kind of stuff. Now this one's a little bit different. This is Bobby Womack's The Bravest Man in the Universe. Now, Bobby Womack really came back into focus with his performances on Plastic Beach by the Gorillaz, and he made this record with Damon Albarn, and you can really hear that Gorillaz sound, that prefab beats, incredibly melodic, tasteful instrumental flourishes, but Bobby Womack's voice on this record is really special. And there's lots of reasons why it finished number 1 in Q Magazine's list of the greatest albums of 2012 when it came out. Won a bunch of awards, appeared just about everywhere. Sounds lovely on vinyl. There's a really nice pressing of it. And I really like the sleeve design. It's subtle and kind of cool. And, just a lovely, lovely record. There's a couple of, I'm just going to quickly give you a glimpse of these, because there's a collection that I've acquired that's got some really wonderful stuff on it. I'm just going to put them on the list. Courtney Spark, Jody Mitchell, for those of you who've been watching the videos for the last couple of months, I've picked up a few copies of it. It's her best album in my view. I've got some Chaka Khan and some Ohio Players, so I'll just stick those on the bottom of the list. As always, would love your feedback. Anyone here that you want to know more about, just hit me up, and watch out for the list, 9 o'clock on Wednesday. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Dumb wits. All right, thanks everyone.